Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers went into Seattle and beat down the Seahawks. Final score of this one, Steelers 30, Seahawks 23. Yeah, rough game, obviously. Rough game. Not a whole lot I'm going to say. I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to do the rant thing. If you want to see me do a little bit more, be a little more angry, check out my instant reaction to the Steelers getting that last first down. But I'm gonna try to keep it as calm as possible, keep it collected as possible on here. This is not a good game. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Seahawks didn't play well. We're gonna go over. So I'll just go step by step as far as who deserves the most blame for this loss, right? The defense. Mason Rudolph is not good. He's not. Like, maybe he's good for a backup, sure, but it's like Mason Rudolph has he started like 8 games in 2020 and was like 5-3, and then he started a week 18 game in 2021 because they were resting Big Ben, and I think he lost that game. And then he didn't play at all in 2022, and he hadn't played at all yet this season until last week. So 2 starts in the last 3 seasons. I don't see why he should be coming anywhere close to scoring 30 points on us. And, people, I mean, obviously their run game did really well, but Mason Rudolph actually played really well. 18 for 24, 274 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown, but he also didn't turn the ball over. It's a good game for Mason Rudolph, and we needed to not let that happen, and it did. But their running game was the thing that really killed us. I mean, Najee Harris, granted, he's not a terrible running back, but he's not really a good running back. I think he's like, I don't even know if Najee Harris is top 20 in rushing yards. If he is, he's barely top 20. He went for 122 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, come on. That's not good. He has 801 rushing yards this season. Looking at the game log, he's gone over 100 rushing yards. Actually, this was the only game this season that he's gone over 100 rushing yards. So, congratulations, Najee Harris, on playing the Seahawks and our terrible defense for your first 100-yard game of the season. So he's actually worse than I thought he was. But no matter, the Seahawks made him look like a Pro Bowler, like a superstar, because that's what we do to bad running backs. Couldn't tackle for the life of us today. Jaylen Warren, their backup, 75 yards and a touchdown. Their backup running back. George Pickens had a nice game, 7 receptions, 131 yards. I mean, yeah, the Steelers' offense played really well, and their offense is not supposed to be good, and this is to be fair, their offense looked good against the Bengals too, but, yeah, sorry, bad game for our defense. And our defense is, we're the 28th ranked defense in the league going into today. We might fall even further after this loss. I mean, it's pretty crazy how bad our defense is. It's like, you have a defensive head coach, Pete Carroll, like, this should not be this bad. And I get it, like, Nwosu is out for the season. I get it, Jordan Brooks didn't play today. I know there's injuries, but, to chalk it up to injuries is kind of lazy journalism, and it's kind of lazy commentary, because every team has injuries, right? Every single team in the NFL loses key players throughout the season. And the question is, can you overcome those injuries? And just simply saying, well, we lost because so-and-so got hurt. We lost because so-and-so didn't play. That's kind of lazy. I mean, you didn't lose because of an injury. You lost because you didn't play well enough to win, right? That's why you lost. The Steelers got injuries too. TJ Watt got injured. Every team deals with injuries throughout the season. I mean, the Steelers quarterback, their most important position on the field, quarterback, didn't play, and they won. So they overcame injuries. We didn't. It's hard to blame it, though, on injuries. You blame it on bad performance. Who else performed badly? I mean, the defensive line is probably the number one reason why we lost. The D-line, 1 sack, and you allow 200 yards of rushing. Because normally you want to have a good pass rush and maybe turn a blind eye to a couple rushes, or really attack the run game, but your pass rush struggles. The Seahawks couldn't do either today. They had literally no ability at all to stop the run or to put pressure on Mason Rudolph. So the defensive line, big blame to them. Leonard Williams, for what it's worth, played pretty well. He was the only guy to get a sack, 1 sack. But yeah, overall bad play by the D-line. Let's talk about the offense now. The offensive line, all things considered, wasn't terrible. Only allowed 1 sack. But they were a big reason why Geno fumbled the ball at the end of the game, which kind of handed the Steelers the win. So the offensive line, yeah, you still get a little bit of blame. Abe Lucas left the game. I'm not gonna just give you the out of, well, he got injured, so it's not their fault. Yeah, it is. It is their fault. It is their fault. Sorry. You should not have to have Abe Lucas in the game to play well. Like, it's the same as the 49ers, right? It's like, well, they're great when Trent Williams is in, but when Trent Williams goes down, as soon as he's out, the team just absolutely falls apart. It's like, yeah, that's a sign of a bad team. If your team cannot withstand one guy getting injured, that's not a well-built team. So maybe that's the GM's fault for not getting, suitable backups. I don't know. Maybe it's the coach's fault for not coaching the backups up to a level where they can competently block when they need to get thrown into the game. But it's like, to say, well, we lost because our center and our left guard went out, that's, again, like, that's not why we lost. Because the O-line still only allowed 1 sack, and B, you just have to overcome that kind of stuff. And we've missed Abe Lucas for like 8 or 9 games this season. So that shouldn't have been like the end all be all. Like, oh no, well, Abe Lucas is out, so I guess the O-line's going to be bad now. That's not how that should work. The fact that is how a lot of people are perceiving our O-line is like, yeah, that's because our O-line probably isn't actually that good. If you're only good with one player who's in it, then that actually means you're not very good. The run game, Kenneth Walker got off to a really good start, and then, as we often do, we just stopped running the ball. Shane Waldron, man, what are you doing? I've been saying we should fire Shane Waldron for a long time, and I'm going to say it again. The Seahawks failed to establish the run, and I don't blame that on Kenneth Walker. 1 touchdown, 53 yards. He's averaged 5.3 yards a carry. I mean, he averaged more per carry than Najee Harris did. Why did we not feed Kenneth Walker the football? Because Shane Waldron doesn't know how to call a good game. That's why. And then let's talk about the quarterback, Geno Smith. A lot of people have absolved Geno of any blame. I'm not going to go that far. Geno played okay. 23 for 33, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, but he did have a pretty crucial fumble. Towards the end of the game, we're down by 7, and he fumbled the ball at like the 25-yard line of them. So, if we had put together a drive, we could have tied the game, or at least kicked a field goal to prevent them. But he gave them the ball in such good field position, then they were able to kick a field goal, make it a 10-point game, and that kind of sealed it. Because then we needed to get an onside kick, and we couldn't get that, and yeah. So, the fumble was kind of big. And a lot of fans I'm seeing are kind of like, well, it's not Geno's fault at all. It's a little bit of Geno's fault. The fumble was not good. You can't be turning the ball over in the fourth quarter, and we've seen this from Geno before. We saw him turn the ball over in the fourth quarter against the Bengals, in a close game against the Bengals that we went on to lose. He threw multiple fourth quarter interceptions in that game. So, this is not necessarily something new from Geno. It's something we haven't seen in a while from Geno, so I was hoping he was over the fourth quarter turnovers, but apparently not. There's a couple other games when he threw fourth quarter picks too, I believe. But the Bengals game jumps out of my head because I know he did that. So yeah, Geno was fine, but again, like 290 yards, pretty good. 1 touchdown, 1 turnover. Ultimately, that's not a great ratio. I mean, his one touchdown was a really good throw, and he put together a couple of really nice drives. But again, we scored 23 points. We were in the red zone 5 times. We came away with 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. That last drive especially, I mean, again, didn't end up mattering, but we were down 30-20. We have first and goal at like the 8-yard line, right? If you score a touchdown, then it's 30-27, and then you get a stop, right? All you need is a field goal to tie it. If you don't get a stop, let's say you do the onside kick just like we did, you could potentially have held them to a field goal, and it would have been 33-27, and then you can still get the ball back with a chance to win. Whereas instead, Gino overthrew a couple of guys, and then DK dropped. I think DK dropped a touchdown pass. It wasn't a surefire thing, but DK made a drop at some point on that drive. I remember that. If we score a touchdown on that drive, it kind of changes the game. But instead, we kick a field goal. Now you have to get a stop. We couldn't get a stop. Game over. So that drive, yeah, like he started off really good on that drive. He completed 6 passes in a row, and then when it mattered the most, he threw 3 incompletions. Yeah, sorry, Gino, you're not absolved of blame. So there's some blame on Gino, some blame on the O-line, a lot of blame on the defense, and in particular, a large portion of blame on the defensive line. I think the D-line ultimately was the biggest factor, and their O-line, to be fair, their O-line bullied our D-line. As a team, ultimately, overall, the Steelers bullied us. They absolutely bullied us. They forced guys to get injured. They forced a crucial fumble. They never gave us an opportunity to bully them. They shoved us around. They didn't let us put pressure on Mason Rudolph. They didn't let us stop the run. We literally couldn't tackle them. And that's what happens when you let a team come into your home stadium in a must-win game and they bully you. You lose. And I know the score says 30-23. It looks closer than it was. Because Pittsburgh could have scored a touchdown and it would have been 37-23. But, they were nice and didn't want to shove it in our throats like that. So that's the final. And ultimately, here's my takeaway. No matter what the outcome of the season is, and by the way, there's still a chance we make the playoffs. And I'll outline that in a second. But no matter what the outcome of this season is, we're not going meaningfully in the right direction right now. Right? We're not meaningfully making progress towards a Super Bowl, I don't think. We're not meaningfully making progress towards being better than the 49ers. We can't beat the 49ers. Ever since Russ left, we haven't beaten the 49ers. We're 0-5 since Russ left. The Rams. Since Stafford got to the Rams are 4-0 against us with Stafford, 0-2 without. So, essentially, we can't beat the Niners, and we can't beat the Rams unless Stafford's hurt. We're not meaningfully going in the right direction. Where are the progress? We have had 2 insanely talented draft classes, and what are we going to do with them? 9 and 8 both years? Where's the progress? We should be improving. We should be ascending, but we're not. We're not meaningfully on the right track. Not with Gino at quarterback, and not with Pete Carroll as our head coach. I'm sorry. It's a home game against a backup quarterback. That's textbook for a win. Like, you can't lose that type of a game, especially in December. Especially when you kind of need to win to make the playoffs. Especially when you are as healthy as you've been all season. Besides Nwosu, who's out, and Jamal is out, but not really because he's hurt, because we benched him. You're very healthy. You're playing a backup quarterback at home. You can't afford to lose games like this. And especially you can't afford to lose the way we did, which was the defense didn't pull the weight, as they haven't. Seattle has not had a top 10 defense since 2016. So what? Let's count. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So it's been 7 years since we've had a top 10 defense. So Pete Carroll, what does that make him? He's a good motivator. I agree. He's great at motivating the players. He gets them hyped up for the games. Oh, he's a 22-year-old. Yeah, I understand it. I know he's a player's coach. But he's a player's coach, but his side of the ball sucks and has sucked for an extended amount of time despite having really talented players. I'm not sure if we can trust Pete Carroll. I don't know. I don't really trust Pete Carroll to be our head coach. I know we're not going to fire him because Jody Allen doesn't want to fire him. He's probably going to ride out the next 2 seasons. He has 2 years on his contract. He's going to ride out the next 2 seasons, and he's going to retire after 2025. That's probably what's going to happen. But if I was the owner, I'd fire him after the season. Because we're not building towards anything, and his area of expertise is the worst part of our team. So I don't see what he's doing for us besides, he gives great post-game speeches. Like, there's a lot of coaches who can give a good post-game speech. There's a lot of coaches who can say, let's win in the 4th quarter. Yeah, there's a lot of guys who can do that. He's a good motivator. I understand he's a great motivator. But at some point, you have to also be a good coach. And I haven't seen that from Pete. And again, Gino, he's not bad. He's not bad. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I feel like I'm talking to a wall. Because there's, a bunch of fans on this side who are like, he's the best quarterback in the league. He's a top 10 player. Oh, he's as good as Mahomes. He's better than Russ. And then there's another huge amount of fans over here who are like, he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. We should start Drew Lock over him. And it's like, I'm right here in the middle, guys. Hey, I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's worse than Drew Lock. But I also don't think he's good. Why can't people just be reasonable and agree with me that he's average? His stats, look at the stats. They're average. His games, yeah, makes a few good throws, makes a couple bad throws, makes a couple good drives, fumbles the ball in the most crucial drive of the game. It's very much kind of back and forth, right? Back and forth. Beats the Lions in overtime, loses to the Rams, right? That's what he does. He's average. And you can win with average, right? You can make the playoffs with average, but you can't win the Super Bowl with average. Unless you have the best defense in the league, which, as I've told you all, we don't have that at all. Not even close. Hasn't been close for 7 years. So unless the defense is magically going to get way better and the offensive line is never going to get injured again, Gino's not going to get us to the Super Bowl. Probably not going to ever win a division. His ceiling is wild card. So if you guys are okay with, make the wild card every year and then lose, then fine. Fine. Let's keep Pete Carroll. Let's keep Gino, good vibes, and then we lose in the playoffs every year, or we go 8-9 and miss the playoffs, right? Fine. Whatever. I like to see a team that's trying to win the Super Bowl. And if that means you take a risk on a rookie quarterback next year, and he doesn't work out, and we lose 12 games, I'm willing to take that risk. Because I know people are going to be mad at me. I would rather go 4-13 with a rookie quarterback than go 9-8 and lose in the first round of the playoffs again with Gino next year. I would much rather try something new because, yeah, you could get worse, but you also could get better. And you kind of need to know. Because, like, are we going to pay Jackson? Are we going to keep DK around? Are we going to, like, we need to know who are we going to pay on this offense? Who is going to let walk? And with Geno, it's like, you kind of need everybody. Or else, he has such a good supporting cast already. And the result is 8-8. He's 7-7. And it's not Drew Lock. I know there's some Drew Lock truthers out there, but it's not Drew Lock. He's not the answer. Sorry. I know he beat the Eagles. He's not the answer. What's the answer? We're not going to be able to get Jaden Daniels. We're not going to be able to get Bo Nix. We're not going to be able to get, obviously, Drake May. I still think we could get Michael Penix. Even if we make the playoffs and get a wild card, I still think we might be able to draft Michael Penix. I would do it. I would do it. Give him a chance. I'd start him week 1. I think he's NFL ready. He's played 5 years in college. So that's multiple. So okay. So how can we still make the playoffs? Because yes, it is possible that the Seahawks can make the playoffs. The way that it works is, so we're going to be tied today. We're tied right now with the Saints at 8-8, and we have the tiebreaker over the Saints. So the Saints are irrelevant, right? As long as we win, the Saints are irrelevant. Okay. The Packers and the Vikings play tonight, Sunday Night Football. The winner of that game will be also 8-8. Both of those teams are 7-8. So if the Vikings win, they'll be 8-8. If the Packers win, they'll be 8-8. Both of those teams do hold the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. So we need the team that wins tonight to then lose next week. And then we need to win. That way, as long as we go 9-8, then the Saints are irrelevant. Don't have to worry about the Saints. All we have to worry about is the Packers and Vikings can't be 9-8. So I think, right, the Packers play the Bears next week. The Bears have been hot. Right? The Bears have been really hot. I think there's a chance that the Packers could win tonight against the Vikings and then lose to the Bears next week. But the Vikings play Detroit. So I think we should be rooting for the Vikings to win tonight and then hope that they lose to Detroit. And then if Green Bay beats the Bears, it wouldn't matter. They'd both be 8-9. I think that's the best outcome for the Seahawks. The problem is the Vikings are starting Jared Hall, a rookie who really was quite terrible in his one start way back in the season. He was benched at halftime for Josh Dobbs. But now they've benched Dobbs for Mullins, and then they've benched Mullins for the guy they benched for Dobbs. Confusing for the Vikings, but if they can somehow beat the Packers tonight, and then they lose to the Lions, and we beat the Cardinals, we're in the playoffs. But if the Vikings win tonight and win next week, or if the Packers win tonight and win next week, then that team would make the playoffs, and we wouldn't. So basically, we need one team. We need to win, and we need one team to lose. And we'll know which team we need to lose in a few hours. So yeah, that's how it's shaken out. There's still a good chance we make the playoffs, but there's also a chance now that we don't. Obviously, that sucks. It's hard to deal with. And I'm telling you guys, either way, whether we make the playoffs or don't, I don't think Pete Carroll should be our head coach anymore. I don't think Geno should be our start. I think Geno should start next week. Play him next week against the Cardinals. Hopefully you win. Make the playoffs, whatever. Start in the playoffs. But after this season, I don't think he should be the starter. And I definitely don't think Shane Waldron should be the OC. I'm sure you guys are going to disagree with a lot of what I just said. That's okay. Comment down below, but let's keep it respectful. Okay, we're all Seahawks fans, right? We're all Seattle fans. We're all rooting for the same team. So I know if I said something that maybe you guys disagree with, it's easy to just jump in the comments and be like, "You're an idiot, blah 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 blah," because here's why. And you know, there's a space for that. It's called Twitter. But let's try to keep the comments respectful, because we are still rooting for the same team. We have the same team's interests at heart. You might disagree with how I would run it. That's okay, right? We can have those disagreements and have those, because those types of conversations are fun when they're not nasty. When they are nasty, it's just annoying. And then I don't want to respond. And then, you know, what the hell, right? What are we even doing? Why are we fans if we're just going to insult each other? That's for politicians, right? We're not politicians. This is sports. It's not that big of a deal, right? Ultimately, it's not that deep. It's just sports. So, keep it cool, keep it calm, keep it respectful. And that's my take. And this is the NW Sportscast. And I hope that if you made it this far, you will do us a favor and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. And hopefully a better result next week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.